Good afternoon, everybody. This is Trey getting back in touch with you from Japan. Today's video, we're going to be talking about Tesla. We're going to do a quick overview, pre-earnings. Just to give you a little bit of heads up, there are like a million YouTubers who like full-time talk about Tesla stuff, and I'm not one of them. I've been in Tesla, and I've been following all of it for years. But I just want to do a real quick kind of overview, because I think there are a lot of people right now who are on the internet just kind of like, what is happening with Tesla's prices right now? Should I get in on this? Am I going to miss the boat? Kind of thing. And so I think there are a lot of people who are kind of like, yeah, I've been hearing about Tesla. I've been hearing mostly bad stuff about Tesla for the last couple of years. So why is it doing so well? Or why is it doing so well based on the stock price right now? Tell me a little bit about it in like 5 minutes while I'm like on the toilet seat kind of thing. So I'm going to go like boom, 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 and just share just kind of a little bit about what's happening with it. Just to give you a quick overview. I also wanted to cover a little bit like pre-earnings stuff. Things might change drastically once we hear the earnings reported in a couple of days. We can do another kind of report after earnings and talk about the results too if you want. Before we get into it, if you have a moment, please hit the like button. And if you want to see the next videos too, please hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification. Over the last couple of months, the Tesla stock price has gone from like $300-400 up to 1,700 something bucks. Right now we're at 1,650. It went up $150 yesterday. It's like making Bitcoin's erraticness look super tame and calm right now. There's a lot of fuss on the internet right now about it being a meme stock. A lot of people are comparing it to Bitcoin and things like that. And a lot of people are also kind of like, how can a car company be worth this much? Or how can a car company overtake Toyota so quickly in terms of market cap? But one of the things we need to remember is that Tesla started out kind of as a car company, but it's not just a car company. And when you are looking at the cars, you can't really compare apples to apples if you're comparing like, a Model S to like a Lexus or a BMW or things like that, because it's offering more things that will be coming in the future, such as Autopilot, auto driving. Autopilot, first of all, is always evolving. They're always sending up updates over the air like monthly, and in some cases weekly. So, it could be like, oh, my car, it took this much distance to stop last week, and now after the update, it can stop a lot faster. That's actually something that happened after Consumer Reports wrote a negative report about the stopping distances a few years ago. No other companies can do that. Similarly, Autopilot is always evolving. If you bought the self-driving package, it's getting better and better all the time. And it's like not actually that far off, where you can just be like, take me to work at this address. And then like 20 minutes later you're there or whatever. Actually, you can't take your hands off the steering wheel, and you shouldn't take a nap or anything. No other auto manufacturers are kind of like on that same level. A lot of companies are like just starting to get to the point where they're like, hey, our car can stop when the car in front of you stops and stuff like that. And it's like, dude, that's like 20-year-old technology now. So those are things to think about when you're just looking at the car stuff. So you're kind of not comparing apples to apples, so to speak. When looking at Tesla cars, you're also buying into the supercharger network, which is growing super duper fast. I wouldn't be surprised in 5 or 10 years if there are more electric car charging stations than gas stations. Tesla alone now has more than 16,000 charging stations around the world. They're growing really rapidly in North America and China in particular, but we saw in June 2020, Tesla cars were the top selling cars in California, as well as the UK, and I think also in Norway and a few other, maybe Germany? I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But a bunch of companies in Europe are just falling head over heels in love with Tesla as well. We also see that they just released the Model Y, which is probably going to outsell any of the other models, probably even combined, because small SUVs right now are just kind of like what everybody loves. They're high-tech enough to be able to drive relatively sporty and fun, while at the same time being able to take the whole family and all your Costco shopping or whatever. And most of their factories are set up to be making Model 3 and Model Y. They also have the Semi and the Cybertruck. We're also hearing whispers of a smaller kind of world car that would be more suitable for more compact streets like in Europe or Asia, Japan, or things like that. So there's a lot on the horizon. The semi-truck alone is set to completely decimate the entire trucking industry in North America. And it's to the point that it's like really, really, really stupid to buy any other truck than the semi. So imagine every single semi you see delivering stuff in a few years could actually be Tesla if they can make that much output. But as far as maintaining a normal 18-wheeler for gas expense, maintenance expense, all those different kinds of things, all that kind of goes away. As well as driver fatigue, driver comfort, autopilot, and various other safety features and stuff like that. I think the semi-truck is going to become its own like multi-billion-dollar industry alone, you know. Then we go on to like the Cybertruck. Love it or hate it. I love it. I laughed the first time I saw it when I was watching the live stream when they released it. I was like, dude, is this a joke? But it's grown on me. And actually, once I got to know more about the different features, it's just like, wow, this is going to be amazing. Especially if you live in a snowy climate. Having a stainless steel truck with like a 1,000,000-mile battery, it's like, dude, it's kind of a no-brainer compared to other cars because you don't have to worry about rust. Rust alone will make a car's lifespan kind of like 10 or 12 years in a snowy place. But all that to say, it's not going to be super huge internationally, I think. Trucks are mostly a North American thing, but I wouldn't be surprised once it starts catching on if it becomes much more than a meme. We've seen that they've already had, I think, hundreds of thousands of pre-orders for it. Granted, it's only a $100 pre-order, but once production gets cranking on that, I think we'll see that, wow, a lot of people are really interested in that vehicle as well. All that to say, the numbers pale in comparison to the types of sales you'll see from Model 3 and Model Y. We saw last week, I think it was, that Tesla said, yeah, we've beaten our expectations. We made more than 90,000 cars this quarter, despite having to shut down Fremont factory, despite the pandemic and potentially decreased demand for cars and stuff like that. One of the really interesting things you need to think about, again, just thinking about cars, is that most people have, like, if I'm buying this car, over the years, I'm going to be spending this much on maintenance, I'm going to be spending this much on gas, and probably if I drive it 100,000 miles, I'm going to be needing to do more in-depth repairs like, you know, spark plugs and fuel filters and things like that. All of those things go away with an electric car. I've been driving a Nissan Leaf here in Japan for years, and it's powered by our solar panels, and I've like changed the brakes once. You don't have to worry about anything else. You know, I charge it at home. In the same way I plug in my cell phone every night, I just plug in the car, and it's like, don't have to worry about stopping for gas. That saves time, but also the expense is like dramatically different, you know. We don't need to travel long distances here in Japan, and so it actually ends up being really, really good. And also you don't need to worry about warming up the car and like topping up fluids and checking, oh, do I have enough oil and stuff like that. I have another car that's a sports car that I do have to do those things with, so I can appreciate the difference a lot. So one of the really interesting things we're seeing with Tesla buyers is that, you know, they might have been normally in the market for Corollas or Ford Focuses or these kinds of cars that are kind of like 20, 25 grand. But actually when they stop and think about it, like this, if I get a Tesla, it's going to last a lot longer. It's going to save me a lot of stress. I won't have to do maintenances and all these other parts. So actually I'm going to be saving X amount over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So why not just spend another $5,000 to get a Model 3 or whatever it is, $10,000, whatever it works out to. That's one of the really interesting things you're going to start seeing when it comes to anything electric. It's like, it's stupid to not buy the electric car. It's like you're throwing away money not buying the electric car. So rather than being like, oh, I'm going to step up and splurge and get something luxurious, it's more like actually getting the gasoline car, getting the car that you have to do all this maintenance on that takes a lot of time, and stopping at the gas station weekly is the like luxurious or, you know, gorgeous thing to do. Having the electric car is like way lower maintenance and way easier. And so I think that effect is going to start spilling over into its other industries as well, which takes me on to my next kind of field of discussion. Tesla is not just cars. That's why we can't just compare it apples to things like Toyota or Volkswagen. Tesla is growing really rapidly when it comes to like solar panel. They have their solar roof thing, which is like cheaper than replacing your roof if you need to replace your roof, but it also makes you energy and it's more durable than traditional roofs. It's like stupid to not get that, you know. And then Powerwall, in-house storage. If you have a solar panel, it just stores it up in this battery. And then you run your house off sun power even when the sun isn't there. And, that works for one house, but they're also zoom out and make it really, really big scale. Tesla is also doing projects where they're like making like battery power plants for entire cities, especially like more rural areas where the power demands are very erratic. And so these cities will be like, yes, please, Tesla, make our new power plant and we'll pay you this much money. But then what they find out within a couple of years, they're like, dude, we saved so much money because we don't have to deal with those weird spikes in demand, that we've saved so much money that we've already paid it off. So it's stupid to not get this thing. And we're going to see that on greater and greater scale going into the future. So we got cars, we got power storage and power plants, we got solar stuff. They're also working on a number of other things. They're working on air conditioning and things like that for homes as well. And one of the really neat things is that since Tesla was started from the beginning with all of this stuff in mind, is that they have vertically integrated everything. So normally, Toyota, Nissan, whatever, I'm in Japan, so those pop into mind, but they say, hey, we need airbags. Let's outsource that to Takata. And then they'll say, hey, Takata, sell us 100,000 airbags for this year for this car. And then Takata takes a margin on that. And, they're kind of like a smaller airbag specific thing. Or whatever it is, seat belts or, even screens or nav stuff. Like a lot of things are outsourced. But Tesla tries to do as much as possible from the beginning in their own hands. They started in a big partnership with Panasonic working on the battery stuff. The dynamics of that relationship have changed. They're still good, but Tesla has way more battery production capabilities than any other auto manufacturer in the world, and I think any other company in the world now. And so one of the problems that other big manufacturers are having, like we see Porsche, came out with like a pretty decent sports car, but they can't produce enough of them because they can't make enough batteries. Making a battery is not something any of these other auto manufacturers have had to do ever. But Tesla started with that in mind. So they're like, we're going to need batteries. We're going to need the materials to make batteries. We're going to need contacts all around the world. We're going to need factories that don't just like make the frames of cars and, put seats in and paint the cars and stuff like that. The factories also include battery production and stuff like that. And so when it comes to really big projects like the Tesla Semi or, setting up battery storage for cities, Tesla's like, yes, we can do that, Granted, they're still making more factories and they want to increase their battery output, but other manufacturers are just like, how can we make batteries? We can't keep up. Literally every other car manufacturer is locked by how many batteries they can produce. We've seen that Tesla can make 100,000 cars a year. Right now they have a couple of factories in the US, and then China just opened recently. They're also working on the Berlin, Germany one, and they're also working on a new one in Texas as well. They'll all have their specialties that are kind of like designed for that regional market, but having this network of factories around the world increases their capacity even more to be able to crank out batteries in cars. So there are a couple other things to talk about when it comes to like Elon Musk and bad news and things like that. And it's really, really interesting because the last couple of years, there was just so much bad news. And I would like talk to people on the phone, especially older people. And I'd be like, dude, you got to get in Tesla. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. It's going to be amazing. And they're just like, but I'm hearing all this bad stuff in the news. And basically what it comes down to, we don't have time to talk about all the details, but basically if the media is being paid by General Motors and Ford and Toyota and all these big companies to make commercials for these companies, it's in their vested interest to not make other competitors look really awesome. So meanwhile, you would go like look on YouTube, these super niche Tesla people who are just watching Tesla, putting out videos every day on Tesla's high-tech stuff. And you're like, wow, how can this go wrong? This is so amazing. This is going to change the world and maybe even change Mars's world too, looking into like SpaceX and landing rockets and stuff like that. It's mind-bendingly high tech, but then you would turn on CNBC and they'd be like, yeah, Tesla sucks. Like they're going to go out of business for sure. It's going to be worth $0 within the next 3 months and stuff. What was the discrepancy? In my opinion, it was basically there are a lot of really big companies who didn't want Tesla to look good, but there were also a lot of big shorts, which is basically really rich people betting that Tesla would fail. And if Tesla did fail, they would get a lot of money. But those bets kept the Tesla stock price down, no matter how good reports were. And so that was a really big opportunity for a lot of people to buy a lot of stocks at like $200-300. And once the price went up, those people pulled out their shorts, or they were called on their shorts, and then the stock price flew up once again. We saw that again at $1,000, and I'm pretty sure we'll start to see that again soon. Elon Musk himself is a very controversial person, and much like Donald Trump, I think they both really understand that any media attention is good media attention, and everybody's talking about Trump all the time. My view from over here in Japan is that I think most people don't love him, but actually they're talking about him. Not to like get political or anything like that, but Elon Musk also does that. And he's been a bit of a loose cannon. There was a time a little while ago where he said, the Saudis are going to buy us out for $420 a share. The funding is secured. We're all set to go. And you're not really allowed to do that legally as the boss of a company on Twitter. And so he ended up getting in really big trouble. And there were talks that he might get fired. I think he was removed from his seat on the board. And there's been a lot of kind of like, yeah, look, Elon Musk is like totally just like a moron. Of course he doesn't know anything. But stop and take a look at the facts. Put CNBC down, take a look at the facts, and see that he's sending like more rockets into outer space than NASA. And actually NASA is now outsourcing to him because the rockets are way, way, way cheaper because they can reuse them. They land them again and they reuse them, and so they're filling the sky with satellites. The whole world is going to be connected on SpaceX Wi-Fi basically within a few years. And so he's changing the world. Elon Musk's start point, his beginning point, is that the world is going down, the environment is terrible, it would be great if we could live on Mars during my lifetime, but if there isn't any shock on the traditional automobile market, there's not enough outside pressure on these companies to make change quick enough to save our planet. I think that was kind of his starting point to get the ball rolling. And now we're seeing, sure enough, kind of like 12, 15 years later after he made the first little Roadster, all the other manufacturers are like, oh man, we got to get electric. We got to get going on this or we're going to get devoured. And we're seeing those sales shift to Tesla drastically. So that's his starting point. He's not in this for money. In fact, recently he like sold a couple of his houses. He's just like, dude, I don't need to own stuff. It's stupid to have my attention divided into managing all these different houses. I just want to get work done and I just want to save humanity kind of thing. And so, again, when you're comparing to other stock companies, generally the stock market and stock companies, their primary goal is to make their investors money. That's kind of not the case with Tesla. Yeah, everybody's making a lot of money who holds Tesla stocks, and that's a cool byproduct of changing the world. But I think Musk's greatest satisfaction is in looking at, Toyota, Nissan, Ford, GM, Jaguar, Porsche, Volkswagen, seeing all of them having to rush in to make big time electric cars rather than just kind of like, the Nissan Leaf or things like that. The Nissan Leaf has been a really big seller, but it's not like everywhere, and other manufacturers aren't like, oh my gosh, that's such a threat to our business model. We have to change now. It wasn't until recently that Tesla's sales started to cause that kind of tension amongst all the other makers. And now we're starting to see kind of big claims coming out of Ford. Nissan just released last week, I think it was, the new Nissan Ariya, which is kind of like a Model Y type thing. Looks really good, looks to have good power and good mileage. I doubt it will be as fun, and I bet it won't be as good bang for your buck as a Model Y, but that's really great that Nissan's being pushed to improve and get better at their product offerings. So what should we expect from the earnings call this week? I really wouldn't be surprised if Tesla just blows us away. We were blown away already by the sales figures that they did release. One of the things we really got to watch for is that if they turn out to be profitable this quarter, then they're eligible to be placed on the S&P 500, which automatically makes them eligible to start receiving automatic investment because so many people around the world are automatically just every month just putting money in these index funds that invest automatically in everything in the S&P 500. So if Tesla slides in there, then there's just like this automatic demand that will kind of keep pushing prices up. If they don't come back as profitable this quarter, then we'll have to wait another year for that. And I think a lot of the upward pressure on the stock price recently is people expecting that. It's hard to say, but I wouldn't be surprised if they turn out to be profitable. But the question remains, even if they are profitable, is it actually worth $1,500 or $1,700? And that's where it really gets tricky, because as I've talked in earlier videos about like Shopify, things like that, people are just so enthralled with the future. Last week we looked into like Costco and Walmart and Target and these kinds of companies. They're very traditional. You can generally calculate the stores are going to be able to sell this much and therefore make this much profit. Boom. And that's probably not going to change that much in the coming years. Walmart's offering Walmart Plus now. Maybe their sales are going to go up 5% kind of thing. But one of the things that's so new and world-changing with Tesla and software in general is that you totally can't measure what's coming in the future. It could end up being super parabolic, and then, they go from selling, 10 or 20,000 cars a month up to like millions, and that's not crazy if you look at Toyota's numbers, In comparison to Toyota's stock price, it's way bigger, and their market cap is bigger than Toyota now too, which some people is just like, look at how many more cars Toyota is selling than Tesla. Toyota should still be number one, but you're not factoring the future. And nobody can really factor that in and say, yes, for sure, Tesla will be $1,000 or 5,000 or 20,000 in X number of years. And that's one of the really tricky things about these kind of meme stocks or really hot stocks, or Bitcoin, a few years ago, things like that. So what's my recommendation? I'm going to break it down into kind of a few different categories. One, if you own zero Tesla and you're just starting to find out about Tesla, I wouldn't rush into it. There's a great possibility that things settle down a little bit. Maybe it'll go down to $1,000 or $1,200, or maybe even less. A few months ago, it was 400 something. It might settle down again. And if it doesn't, there are still many other fish in the sea. Another option you can take is to just kind of dollar cost into it. Buy a stock here and there, and once it trends down, pick up more. But if it never does trend down, you'll still be kind of riding those gains. For those who already own some Tesla, I took a little bit of profit when it was above 1,700, and now a bunch of the Tesla stocks I own were free because I bought them at $200 and sold them at 1,700 kind of thing. So now I've removed all of my risk from it, so I can just sit back and watch without too much stress, knowing that all these Tesla stocks I have are now free. And if it goes up to 20,000, then that's, super great. So I think it's important, and this isn't a strategy that's talked about very much, is to dollar cost in when you're buying stocks, but also you can dollar cost out, So you don't have to always be going in, boom, 20 grand here and 20 grand there, all selling it all kind of thing. Dollar costing in and dollar costing out is a good opportunity, So if you have a bunch, it's, the ball's in your court. You could take some profit right now. You might miss out on some more profit. On the flip side, if you bought recently at 14 or 1,500, I think your only option is to just wait and hold on. Either way, you're going to be fine in kind of like 3 or 5 years. I don't think with all of this progress that Tesla has on the horizon, you're going to be in for like a world of hurt and it's going to drop down to $100 and stay there forever. It's probably not going to happen. I also wouldn't be surprised if the stock ended up splitting in the coming months as well, just because it's so expensive. Generally speaking, when it comes to investing, you want to be investing in companies that you're willing to stick with for 3, 5, or more years. And so if you don't have that attitude, Tesla is kind of playing with fire. If you do have that attitude, you're probably going to be all right. Anyways, I will get back in touch with you guys in a couple days after the earnings call. Looking forward very much to see what happens. Thank you guys, and talk to you soon.